We now present For the Record.
The end of a nearly 3-decade career in public service.
We just decided that, it's time to close the book on this chapter and see what's next.
And a new Democrat joins the race to try to unseat Western Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden.
We need leaders who are going to do the work and deliver for our working families and seniors in Wisconsin.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Keneally. We first go to a tumultuous week on Capitol Hill, where a sitting House Speaker was fired from their leadership role for the first time in history. Now, that left a power vacuum without a clear leader emerging among the Republicans who control the House. But later in the week, 2 possible candidates floated their names: Steve Scalise of Louisiana and Jim Jordan of Ohio.
This is really important that we get this right.
My politics are entirely consistent with where conservatives and Republicans are across the country.
Joining us now to help break down how all of that shaped up is Lawrence Andria, D.C. correspondent for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And hey, Lawrence, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So I know this was a historic vote earlier in the week, but I'm also kind of curious about just how much of a shock it was. Did we hear any threats to McCarthy's speakership during that budget debate last week?
Yeah, well, this really goes back to January and McCarthy's 15-ballot effort to become speaker. He had to make promises to that far-right faction of his conference to do things like keep spending levels low, pass individual appropriations bills instead of one big package, give lawmakers a certain number of hours to review bills, and notably allow any single member to raise a motion to vacate. But earlier this summer, McCarthy cut a deal with Democrats to suspend the debt ceiling when the country was on the brink of default, which that faction took issue with. And then just last weekend, he needed Democrats to pass a stopgap spending bill to keep the government open. And that measure didn't have some of those deep spending cuts Republicans were looking for. And some in that faction, led by Matt Gaetz of Florida, saw that as the last straw.
We've seen, especially in Wisconsin here, a little bit of a split vote. Some Republicans voting against that budget deal, but backed McCarthy's speakership vote earlier in the week. What have we been hearing from them kind of as all this has been playing out?
Yeah, well, Tom Tiffany and Scott Fitzgerald voted against the continuing resolution to keep the government open last weekend, but all 6 Wisconsin's House Republicans backed McCarthy on Tuesday. Fitzgerald, after the vote, sort of pointed to what he saw as successes during McCarthy's 9 months in office, or as speaker, I should say, like some border security legislation that passed the House. Tiffany said similar things, but said the House should get back to passing these 12 appropriations bills with that temporary funding patch expiring in mid-November. But I think, who members of Wisconsin's delegation end up supporting to be the speaker could tell us a bit more about what direction they want to take this Congress.
And we've already seen a couple of names starting to float, Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan. Do you know yet kind of what of a timeline we're looking at to replace the House Speaker, or is that still kind of up in the air?
It's pretty up in the air right now, but obviously after the vote to oust McCarthy, the House members sort of went home to their districts for the week. I think they'll be back on Capitol Hill on Tuesday, and they plan to start this process of electing a new speaker Wednesday, but it's not sort of clear how long that will take.
Lawrence Andria with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, based out of D.C. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, among Wisconsin Republicans, U.S. Representative Scott Fitzgerald and U.S. Senator Ron Johnson both say that they are behind Jim Jordan for Speaker. And a quick note that we reached out to multiple Wisconsin Republicans for an interview this week, but they were not available. But we did want to check the temperature of Washington with a member of Wisconsin's congressional delegation, Congressman Mark Pocan. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
So I know you're back in district today, but just a general sense of what's the demeanor like on Capitol Hill right now?
Well, we thought it was chaotic when we were trying to just get a continuing resolution passed. Should have been something that was super simple. Now you take that chaos and it's exponential. The Republicans are in disarray. They have a civil war going on, hence kicking out a speaker. And now we're just waiting for them to select one because we can't vote on anything on the floor until they have a speaker. So chaos might even be a compliment to what's going on.
And I want to pick apart a little bit. Why did the Democrats join that effort to remove McCarthy? It seems like it could be a case where the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't.
Well, Kevin McCarthy has been governing like Matt Gaetz anyway. He's been appealing to that extreme element for 9 months. He's ignored Democrats, said he didn't want our votes. In fact, even up to this vote, said he didn't want our votes. We replied. Honestly, I think, he's probably one of the weakest and most untrustworthy speakers that we've had that I can think of through my time, whether it be the legislature or in Congress. And because of it, he just didn't have the trust. I mean, on Saturday alone, he introduced the continuing resolution, gave us 15 minutes to read a 71-page document. The day before, he was going to cut spending by 30%. And now we're supposed to trust him. And we had to fight to get extra time through dilatory tactics on the floor. We asked for 90 minutes. He wouldn't even give us that. So we got zero respect. We got extreme governing. We got everything that you'd expect to come from Matt Gaetz out of having Kevin McCarthy as speaker. I don't know how that changes unless that caucus decides to change, but there is absolutely zero incentive for us to continue the chaos that's going on.
And so where does that leave the House now with that power vacuum?
Well, the Republicans got to figure out a speaker, and I think that's their job. They've told us many times they're not going to want Democratic votes. It's an agreement they made early this session. I think a dumb one. I think the American people expects us to get things done. That means to compromise. It's pretty much things that you learn how to do in 4th grade. But right now, the behavior is a little more like 1st or 2nd grade among the Republicans in their civil war. So unfortunately, this is clicking away time that we need as we get closer to when that end of the time we gave to keep funding government is 6 weeks. If we're not getting appropriation bills done, then we're no further than we were before the continuing resolution.
And I was going to ask you, too, how close are we, or do you have a sense of whether we will meet that 45-day deadline to pass either a budget or another CR?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's so chaotic. I have no idea. I don't understand how the current Republican majority thinks. Clearly he governed just about everything Matt Gaetz wanted, and yet that wasn't enough. And yet, as Democrats, we're looking at this and seeing how chaotic it is. Kevin McCarthy negotiated an agreement not to have a CR, that we would have been done by September 30th, back when we had the debt ceiling limit lifted. And then he broke his word 2 weeks later. That's one of the reasons why we couldn't support him. He's untrustworthy. But, really, the chaos there is so entrenched. I don't know what to expect, and I can just hope for the best.
Congressman Mark Pocan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
When we come back, after 27 years in public service, Dane County Executive Joe Parisi announced this week that he will retire in May. We sit down with him to talk about his tenure in Dane County and who he thinks might replace him. We'll be back after this.
Solving the child care crisis, Thursday at 10.
Hello, I'm Tommy Van Ness from the Tommy Van Ness Realty Group. The Tommy Van Ness team has a real passion for real estate and would love to work with you on buying and selling your house. We are a multi-award-winning team with over $500 million in sales.
Our strong work ethic and negotiation skills will help guide you through the buying or selling process. If you're considering buying or selling in 2023, now is the time.
Why settle for less? Call Tommy Van Ness.
If you've ever grilled, you know you can count on propane to make everything great. But did you know propane also powers school buses that produce lower emissions that lead to higher test scores? Or that propane can cut your energy costs at home? It powers big jobs and small ones too. From hospitals to hospitality, people rely on propane, an energy source that's affordable, plentiful, and environmentally friendly for everyone. Get the facts at propane.com/now.
Have you heard? Tempur-Pedic sleep is better sleep.
With innovative memory foam developed by NASA, Tempur-Pedic mattresses reduce motion transfer,
which means less tossing and turning so you can sleep undisturbed through the night. But which Tempur-Pedic is right for you? Come to Denver Mattress and test for yourself. Or get a $300 gift when you purchase any qualifying Tempur-Pedic. And rest easy knowing it's backed by our 365-night better sleep guarantee. Shop Denver Mattress today, your Tempur-Pedic elite retailer.
Announcing the winners of Madison Magazine's Best of Madison Readers Poll for 2023. Congratulations to Ward Brought Music for winning gold for Best Musical Instrument Store. See all the winners on MadisonMagazine.com. Announcing the winners of Madison Magazine's Best of Madison Readers Poll for 2023. Congratulations to Roth Cheese for winning bronze for Best Cheese Producer. Roth Cheese, always good. See all the winners on MadisonMagazine.com.
Welcome back. After 27 years in public office, Dane County Executive Joe Parisi is deciding to retire this May. And joining us now for a sit-down is the man himself. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First, I want to get a sense of why now?
Well, you know, I've reached a point in my career where, you know, I'm blessed, really. I've realized I've pretty much done everything I wanted to do, especially in this office of county executive. It's just been such a great journey. But, you know, I'm at that point where I've accomplished the things I set out to accomplish. My wife has been retired for 3 years now, and I have to admit, that looks pretty good to me. And so we just decided that, you know, it's time to close the book on this chapter and see what's next.
In 27 years, you've kind of run the gamut, county clerk, state representative, now county executive. I was fascinated by politicians to get a sense of, like, what was that initial spark back in 1996 for you to start running?
Yeah, it's always been the desire to make a difference, right? And I've never, like, really planned ahead too far past any one office. You know, originally when the county clerk's office came open, some friends said, you know, this is something you might want to look at. At that time, campaign finance reform was a big deal, and the county clerk's office oversees campaign finance. So I saw that as a way to give voice. And then, you know, next came up a seat opened up in the state assembly, and then a seat opened up as county exec. And at each, you know, point in that journey, I saw new opportunities to, you know, maybe give back a little.
And curious, over that tenure, do you have any sense of, like, what your proudest accomplishment in office has been?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question. A couple folks obviously have asked me that. And, you know, I think there's not one specific, you know, thing I can point to. What I feel so fortunate about, especially in the office of county executive, is I've been able to, you know, take part in so many different initiatives, be it, you know, initiatives to help, you know, people who are suffering from food insecurity, people who are suffering from homelessness, mental health challenges, working on our climate work. There's just so much that, you know, I've been able to be part of, certainly not all myself. It's always been a team effort addressing. And that's what I've liked about this. It's not just one specific area. There's just a lot of different challenges one can, you know, have a difference and wrap your arms around and do something about.
And so you've obviously lived and, you know, participated in many historical events. I remember seeing you back during 2011 Act 10, wearing the orange T-shirt. How has politics kind of changed over the 27 years that you've been in office?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and this won't surprise anyone, it's become more divisive. You know, it's become much more challenging, certainly, for people on the right and the left to get together and problem solve. You know, sometime around the time I was in the state assembly, in particular, there seemed to be this evolution in kind of the approach that a lot of folks had, that if you disagree with someone, you're supposed to dislike them. And I never felt that way. I always felt that, you know, I don't always agree with everything maybe my opponents might be saying, but I think it's important that we listen to all sides, and when we come together and forge solutions together. And right now we're at an extremely, as folks know, polarized point in our politics, and I'm hoping that maybe this is, you know, going to be the time when people step back and say, you know, it's really enough is enough. We're all on this same planet, all in the same community, and despite our differences, we do need to figure out a way to work together.
And it's been kind of a tumultuous couple of years on the county board level, too. One of your appointments, Sheila Stubbs, failed confirmation vote. Has any of that factored into your decision to step away now, or I guess what do you think of county politics going forward from here?
Yeah, you see it even at the local level, too. It's a lot more rancorous now than it used to be, but it certainly didn't have anything to do with my decision to move on. I mean, as you mentioned, I've been in politics a long time. I've gone up against folks like Scott Walker and Robin Voss, and it's unfortunately, it is part of politics. It's too bad that we're seeing it a little more at the local level, but, you know, at the same time, at the local level is somewhere where people do have a little louder voice to stand up and say, hey, we want you folks to get along. So hopefully we can see more of that moving forward.
If you got to pick and kind of hand the reins off to a successor, do you have a sense of who you'd want to see replace you?
Yeah, there's not an individual I have in mind. I think there's a lot of talent throughout this community, and already I'm, hearing that a lot of people are, considering taking a look at it. So it's going to be pretty interesting and kind of fun to sit back and not have to worry about running myself and be able to watch, as a spectator for once.
Anybody that we should have on our radar here?
Yeah, well, I'll leave it to people to come forward themselves. I mean, some people have had some private conversations with me, but my guess is we'll start hearing publicly pretty soon.
And just kind of curious, nuts and bolts, we talk about continuity, you're stepping down in May, but you'll still have some time left on your term.
Yeah.
What happens to that county executive position there?
So when there's when someone leaves before their term is over, in the case of a county executive, the county board chair will become interim for up to 30 days and then appoint an interim to serve until the special election occurs.
Gotcha. And just kind of broadly, what do you hope your legacy is here in Dane County?
It's funny. I get asked that a lot, and I don't really, I've never really thought in terms of my legacy. I just hope overall that I made a difference.
Dane County Executive Joe Parisi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, another Democrat has entered the race to face off against Derek Van Orden for Western Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District. We sit down with her coming up next.
You're the people who make junk disappear?
We brought a whole truckload of magic.
1-800-GOT-JUNK, I love you.
We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
At Informed Choice Insurance Agency, we're proud of our 5-star reviews.
My agent Matthew explained everything about Medicare and the needed supplemental insurance. He took the time to show me several different plans and the plus and minuses of each policy.
Andrea was amazing, from her knowledge to her presentation to her skills in navigating complicated and intimidating waters. I cannot emphasize enough how much she helped me and my family.
Need help with your Medicare or Marketplace health plans? Get 5-star service at Informed Choice Insurance Agency.
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Jody's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Here's to being awed by autumn in Wisconsin. To exploring the home of an architect named Frank. Here's to experiencing new heights and riding a wave of new fall adventures. To seeing fall colors through the eyes of someone close to you. Here's to those who Wisconsin.
You're the people who make junk disappear?
We brought a whole truckload of magic.
1-800-GOT-JUNK, I love you.
We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
Welcome back. We're no stranger here in Wisconsin to close and competitive races. And one of those races that is expected to draw national attention next year is the race for Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District, which covers La Crosse and Western Wisconsin. Now, that seat is currently being held by first-term legislator Derek Van Orden. And joining us now is a new Democrat hoping to unseat him, Katrina Shankland of Stevens Point. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just kind of to get the ball rolling, why are you jumping into the race and why now?
I think it's so important for people to be held accountable when they're causing partisan dysfunction and chaos in government. And if you look at what happened in Congress this week, we saw so much partisan extremism and dysfunction. And I think it is exactly why I'm running for Congress. We need leaders who are going to do the work and deliver for our working families and seniors in Wisconsin. And I have a long track record of doing just that in the Assembly. And I am ready to get to work for people across the 3rd Congressional District in Western and Central Wisconsin.
And as you mentioned, you're a state rep from the Stevens Point area. Why are you choosing to give up that Assembly seat to run for Congress here?
My constituents in Portage County have encouraged me to do so because they have seen the work that I have done for them in the state capitol. Over the last decade, I have helped pass over 170 bills into law from helping clean up our contaminated water and supporting farmers with water quality initiatives to protecting first responders from reckless drivers and lowering the cost of prescription drugs. I have that positive track record of getting results despite having always served in the minority. So both Democratic and Republican governors have signed my bills into law. And that's the leadership that I'm going to bring with me to Washington.
And you've been in the Assembly for a decade, part of that including a stint on the state's powerful budget writing committee. Just kind of curious about both your political and personal background. What are you hoping to bring to Congress?
What I really want to bring to Congress is proof that we can make government work. When you elect people who campaign on being partisan and breaking government, those are the results that you get. And I think the House Republicans have proven that to the entire country. When I've traveled across the 3rd Congressional District as I was exploring this campaign and candidacy, I heard repeatedly from people across the district that they want someone who will stand up for them and someone who they trust. They want representation from someone who understands that they need more affordable and accessible health care, and they really want someone who will fight to protect the promise of both Social Security and Medicare. They know that I'll be the one who will hold pharmaceutical companies accountable to make prescription drugs more affordable. And they also want someone who will be championing quality, affordable childcare and public education. Those are the things that I have done in the Capitol and what I'll continue to do in Congress for working families and seniors across the 3rd.
So we saw this week a vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, and here's a clip of Derek Van Orden speaking to that.
I'm incredibly disappointed by the immature and irresponsible way that 8 Republicans voted with 208 Democrats for chaos.
So I want to ask you kind of in reaction to that, was it the right move for Democrats to oust McCarthy this week?
I think it's important to remember that House Republicans have the majority and they are supposed to be governing. Not only have they failed at governing, but they've thrown our country into chaos. The same day that I announced, they ousted a speaker for the first time in our country's history. And they also voted repeatedly against working families and seniors. So it's time for a change. And I would say we need reasonable Republicans to join Democrats in a long-term funding solution. That's what I'm most focused on and what I would be working on if I were in Congress right now. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that Democrats are unified in keeping the government open long-term. It's on Republicans who need to come to the table to join Democrats in a long-term funding solution.
Now, one of the biggest criticisms that we've seen from Democrats from this last cycle was that the party didn't invest heavily into the 3rd Congressional District. How would you assure Democrats in the 3rd CD that it won't happen again this time around?
I will say first and foremost, I am not afraid to hold anyone accountable, including the DCCC. That is part of why I'm running. They made an unforced error when they refused to invest in Brad Pfaff. And had they have done so, I believe he would have been our member of Congress right now. And that's on them. That's extremely disappointing, but we can learn from those mistakes. And I'm going to be running a campaign that is going to be building strong coalitions across the 3rd Congressional District. I already launched with not only the endorsement of 7 different labor unions, which shows that I'm on the side of working families, but also the endorsement of local elected officials and some state officials across the 3rd Congressional District.
Now, there are already a handful of Democrats lining up in the race. Are you prepared for a competitive primary?
Of course, I'm no stranger to primaries. I first got elected in 2012, and that primary was a 9-way primary. So I'm excited for that. I think it's fantastic to know that there are 3 women in the race. The people of the 3rd have never been represented by a woman in Congress. And I am excited to talk about not only the opportunities that we have here, but also to articulate strongly a positive, progressive message of not only change, but also, holding pharmaceutical companies accountable, protecting the promise of Social Security and Medicare, cleaning up our water, whether it's PFAS or nitrate contamination in our drinking water across the 3rd, and making sure that we're investing in our infrastructure, whether it's broadband, roads, or childcare and public education. So I'm excited about the race. I'm excited to articulate Wisconsin values and to make sure that the people of the 3rd know I'll always have their back. And I think it's a positive thing that there are strong women in the race for the 3rd Congressional District.
Katrina Shanklin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And as a quick note, we did reach out to the Van Orden campaign, but we did not immediately hear back. When we return, a scary situation at the Capitol has some people rethinking security for the building. We'll have more on that and what it could look like coming up after this.
Look Looking for the best sleep in the galaxy? Look no further than Denver Mattress. And during the epic fall sale, prices are dropping throughout the store, like the Summit Queen, only $332.49, plus 4 years no interest and free shipping. Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy? It's Planet Fitness. Join now through October 13th and save $3 a month during our Super Savers sale when you join for $1 down and just $10 a month. No commitment, cancel anytime. That's almost 25% off your monthly membership. With this limited time offer, you can get in and get energized with equipment for every workout. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. Don't miss out. Join today for $1 down and just $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, October 13th.
Hello, I'm Tommy Van Ness from the Tommy Van Ness Realty Group. For over a decade, thousands of people have turned to Tommy Van Ness Realty to buy or sell their home. Because we are more than your realtor, we're your partner.
If you list with us and take advantage of our extensive marketing, everyone will know your home is for sale.
The Tommy Van Ness Realty team is working hard for you. Call Tommy Van Ness today at 608-395-7375. Why settle for less? Call Tommy Van Ness.
To everyone who craves a fresh meal, come have a taste of Wisconsin.
America's Dairyland,
as in real dairy.
It gives Culver's fresh frozen custard its famous rich and creamy flavor.
Like really rich.
So rich.
Rich and creamy.
And our cook-to-order Butterburgers?
They're topped with, you guessed it,
Wisconsin cheese.
But it's the smiles we put on your face with every meal made just for you.
It really makes our hearts melt.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious.
Looking for the best sleep in the galaxy? Look no further than Denver Mattress. And during the epic fall sale, prices are dropping throughout the store, like the Summit Queen, only $332.49, plus 4 years no interest and free shipping. Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
Welcome back. This week, a frightening incident at the state capitol caused concern as a man illegally carrying a firearm approached the governor's office asking to meet with him. Now, this brings up an interesting question. Wisconsin is one of the most open capitals across the country. According to a report from 2 years ago by the Council of State Governments, Wisconsin is one of only 13 state capitol buildings that does not have metal detectors. And generally, permit holders can carry concealed weapons in the building, and members of the public can walk right up to legislators' offices. Now, those offices are equipped, however, with panic buttons that alert Capitol Police. But on an incident last year, police did not respond to a lawmaker's office after a staffer tripped that alarm. Now, Governor Evers, speaking to reporters this week, did not touch on specifics of the security in place in the wake of that suspect approaching his office.
I never, ever talk about what my security detail does or what they're planning on doing. But anytime something like this happens, obviously they reevaluate.
But he says police are continuing to look into it. Now, that does it for us this week. Have a great rest of your weekend.
This has been For the Record.